Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Pro Wrestling Straight Shooter. I'm your host, Tats Deej. Doing something a little bit exclusive today for a Facebook page that I'm extremely excited to be a part of. My friend DJ Verdict, longtime viewer, longtime buddy here that I've known on YouTube as well as, talked to him on Facebook. He started a Facebook page called Shoot on WWE, and he came to me and he said, hey, I know you're a longtime WWE and pro wrestling fan, as well as you've been in the business. I was in a pro wrestler back in the late 90s, so I've got a little bit of knowledge on the inner workings of the industry and as well as opinions on WWE and pro wrestling in general. And he asked me to be a part of this, and what I wanted to do was an exclusive video for the Facebook page and talk about something very specific. Big WWE news this week is the brand split, something they haven't done in quite a few years. On one hand, you're going to have SmackDown going live on USA Network on Tuesday nights, and you'll continue to have Raw on Monday nights doing their live show. And I'd like to talk to you guys a little bit about that right now, give you my opinions, my take on it, as well as get some feedback from you and see what you think about it. They tried this several years ago, at the tail end of the Attitude and Ruthless Aggression era. They split the SmackDown and Raw brand and made them two separate, distinct brands, and there was a champion on one side and a champion on the other side. And occasionally they, had, brand mixing and guys would wrestle each other from Raw and SmackDown. And to a certain degree, I think it was met with a moderate amount of success. Really, we were coming in at the tail end of a great era in wrestling. So it was they were looking to freshen things up, liven things up. And for me, some things worked, some things didn't. Moving forward, I think this is a real good opportunity for WWE to take advantage of a really deep talent pool. Their talent pool currently is as deep, if not deeper, and more rich than it has been in about the last 10 to 12 years. There's some really good guys on the roster who I think deserve ample TV time, who deserve to be pushed properly. Guys like Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Zack Ryder. You've just got all these guys coming up from NXT. And when you have, a 3-hour Raw show, there's only so much time to go around. And then you see the same guys that were main eventing and headlining and have their feuds going on Raw, carrying that over and spilling that over into SmackDown. So you had a lot of guys just going to the shows and sitting in the back with nothing to do. And I think splitting of the brands will give these guys who really didn't have a whole lot going on, or who will come out and are given like a 2 to 3 minute segment, can now go out on this show and showcase the talent that they have, try and get themselves over in front of the audience. And I think it's going to be a good thing, not only for the wrestlers themselves, but for the fans as a whole, because it's going to give us something fresh. My hope, my prayer is that there will be something that distinctively separates the two of them, other than, Raw being red and SmackDown being blue. I'm hoping that the storylines and angles will be somewhat different on Raw versus what they'll be on SmackDown, and I hope at some point in the future they'll have like a big pay-per-view where everybody kind of gets together and butts heads. Couple things that I am worried about. One is, what do you do when it comes to your champions and your titles, and do you have those guys float back and forth from show to show? Here's what I'd like to see happen, and this is going to get a little bit convoluted because you've got not only the tag team champions, you've got the World Heavyweight title, you've got the Intercontinental title, and you've also got the U.S. title. What I think they should do is take the U.S. title and put it on either Raw or SmackDown, take the Intercontinental title and put it on the opposite show, and make those titles your upper-level titles that these guys compete for, and then take your World Heavyweight Champion and make him float back and forth from show to show. And, he can wrestle different guys on each show and keep that title, because I really think what bothered me with the original brand split was you had the World Heavyweight title and then the World title, and there was no distinction as to whose title was more important. They seemed to imply that the World Heavyweight title was just slightly more important, and that the World title itself was like maybe a step below that, and then the IC, it was almost like there was a tiered level for all the titles. And I really don't think they should do that now. I think there should be one single solitary brand title, which is the World Heavyweight title currently held by Roman Reigns. And then they should have the U.S. title either on Raw and SmackDown, or on Raw or SmackDown, and then the IC title on the opposite show. Now, that brings up the tag team titles. What do you do with those? You obviously can't have a tag team champions on Raw and a tag team champion on SmackDown. So what do you do? Do you make that one float, or do you dissolve the tag team titles? I don't know. What I'd like to also see is kind of the two play against each other. And one thing WWE's really been missing for the longest time has been competition. Ever since WCW shut its doors about 14 years ago, WWE's been it. I mean, yes, TNA has tried to and just failed miserably to become the number two, organization for pro wrestling in America. Ring of Honor has its niche, it has its following, but I really just don't think it's at that level where it's a suitable number two. These two really, to make it work, they need to compete against each other. There needs to be a reason for people to want to tune into Raw and a reason to want to tune into SmackDown. And if they're each trying to one-up each other in terms of content, in terms of storyline, in terms of characters, in terms of what they put forth as a product, I think that's really going to be special for the fans. I think it's going to be really important for the success of the brand split. A couple things that I'm worried about is, one, overexposure. Raw is going to be live. Raw is currently 3 hours. I think they should dial that back to 2 hours. SmackDown is going to be live for, I'm assuming, 2 hours on Tuesday night. Are you going to be willing to sit through 2 or even 3 hours of Raw on Monday night to tune back in on Tuesday night on USA Network to watch 2, potentially 3 hours of SmackDown? That's a whole hell of a lot of wrestling in one very small block of time. We'll see if people are able to and willing to sit through that much back-to-back WWE programming, and that's where I think they've got to have a distinct booking difference between the two shows. The other thing that I'm concerned about is what happens with NXT. Currently, NXT's got a good thing going. They've got a cult following. They're building a following, and they're building itself up as a brand. And about a year ago on the Stone Cold podcast, Triple H sat down and he talked about NXT and what he's done with it, what he likes about it, and where he'd like to see it go. And he made the statement that his goal, his dream, his vision for NXT was for it to become the third brand. I think that's a problem, and I think that's going to become a problem because they've historically been a developmental area where they've brought in, they've mined the indie talents for some of their better talents, and they brought them in and they've shown them the way WWE does things, working on TV, working pay-per-view matches, things like that, and it's worked out well. There's been some great people come out of that, man. When you look at Tyler Breeze and Kevin Owens and just everybody, Apollo Crews, looking forward to him, all these guys that they've brought up from NXT, and Sami Zayn, eventually they're going to have to bring up more people to fill these roster slots. You're looking at Samoa Joe, Finn Balor, the American Alphas, all these guys, Austin Aries, eventually looking to get put on either Raw or SmackDown. Where do you go with NXT once you've rated your upper echelon of your developmental talent? Now you've got the lower guys that you're trying to build up, which they'll do. They'll give them things that'll work, and the NXT thing will continue to work. But from there, where does NXT go? Does it continue to strive to become its own brand, or does it continue to be the developmental area? And for my money, I really hope, one, from an overexposure standpoint, and two, from a if it ain't broke, don't fix it standpoint, I hope NXT remains a developmental area where they can mine from the independents, bring these guys and girls in, help them develop a character, help them develop a persona, show them how to work a WWE-style televised match, and then move them up to the main roster from there, and they can rotate out. You can get some of these guys off the road, give them less time out on the road, and, everybody can showcase what they've got. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say about that. I'd like to get your response on that. What do you think of the brand split? Are you looking forward to it? Are you against it? Do you think it's a bad idea? And more importantly, if you do like it, what do you want to see about it? What do you want to see happen? What guys and girls do you want to see go to Raw? What guys and girls do you want to see go to SmackDown? Yeah, I'm sorry, there's pussy on the camera behind me. Can't do anything about that, guys. Anyway, I'm Tats Deej for Shoot on WWE Facebook page. Look me up on YouTube, subscribe, share the videos. I'm talking WWE, and I'm looking to talk it with you. And I'm out.